Hello, everybody. It's Bill from the SITREP Podcast, and we are back. Sorry for a MIA session. Life just gets in the way, but we're back, and sitting with me at the table is Dawn.
Hey.
And Jesse.
Hello.
And over on the interweb is Chris.
Hey, how you all doing?
And Mr. Oriskany Jim, sir.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
All right. So in today's episode, whenever you're watching this, we are going to talk about some important dates in historical history. Wargaming obviously relates to it. And we're going to talk about some industry news and some other things. And we will be right back after this in 3. We're back, and it's time for the traditional what the hell have you been doing in gaming? Chris.
Yeah, so I've been doing a number of things. Our local game store, Critical Grind, is doing a paint competition. So you buy a mini and so right now I'm
Oh, nice.
a nice little beholder.
Yep.
It's
Nice.
still a work in progress.
You know what it looks like? It looks one of those chimpanzee sock puppet
Oh,
monkeys.
Just because of the paint scheme right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So I've been working on that. I've also been going hot and heavy in the Trench Crusade.
Oh, I didn't know you were getting in on that.
Yeah, going all in.
Ka-ching.
Actually, no.
No?
The rules are free and the STLs are inexpensive. You
Okay.
can get your whole faction for the STLs for $65.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad.
And so I've been building terrain, working on my little trenches,
Very good.
and printing up a bunch of stuff. And since Marty's not here, I'm also going to show you something that he pulled off. So he painted a 75 millimeter version of this
Oh, that's cool.
nice little rockworm.
That's awesome.
So that will be featured in one of Steve Herner's new
I was
tables.
going to say that feels like it belongs on an AOS table somewhere.
Yeah. So this one's 32 millimeter.
So.
oh,
The other one is 75 millimeter scale.
Nice. Don't want to get in the way of the other one.
And
Don't really want to get in the way of either of them, but
the small version has extra pieces.
oh, that's cool.
Cool.
That's very cool. I like it.
So Marty did an outstanding job. He's still a dick, but he did an outstanding job on that.
That's what happens
see.
when you don't show up. You're not here to defend yourself.
that-
Hey, Marty, if you disagree with us, speak up.
Yep.
Oh, no.
I got
okay.
nothing.
I got nothing. And then I also have to sadly say I've had a catastrophic failure problem with my big FDM printer.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
So I was printing one of the terrain pieces.
Okay.
And I went to reprint one of them because it has a little bit of lift right here. And I came back the next morning and this is what it decided to print.
Oh, dear.
My hot end is somewhere in this solid bit of plastic.
We don't want to hear about your hot end, Chris.
Well,
Is that your bamboo?
Yeah. This is more action than I've seen.
ouch.
That's terrible.
So, yeah, I've got some work to do.
How did we think that happened?
We probably just kept printing.
Yeah.
Nozzle
but-
backlogged.
Sheesh.
It probably broke away from the plate and then just
Was
stuck
attached to the hot end, and
Yeah.
Mm.
But,
Bummer.
I did get a lot of cool stuff printed for it. Here's a nice little pillbox.
That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
So, yeah, it's going to be fun.
Awesome.
So
That's the game you've been wanting to get into,
I've
right?
been looking at it.
Yeah.
I haven't really gotten like any idea of anything, but now that I know that the armies aren't going to be expensive if I have a printer to do.
Yeah.
The armies are not expensive. You can get a warband for $38.
That's not bad at all.
No. And
Yes.
did I mention that the rules are free?
Yes.
But that's if you print it yourself, right?
Yeah.
With the rules?
no,
The army, dude.
Yeah, that's if you print it yourself. But the minis are over at my mini factory. Actually, if you go to trenchcrusade.com, you can find the rules, and then you click on shop, and you can find the minis, and you can either get the STLs or you can pre-order them printed. And it's the same as a company that's associated, I guess, with my mini factory. Anything you buy from my mini factory that you want printed, they'll print it and send it to you.
Okay.
And still, those aren't that bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty cool, and it's mini agnostic, so you can use proxies. They don't care.
Nice. No
And there's,
pending lawsuits.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. And there's the lore and the artwork is pretty surreal. And I've watched a bunch of the battle reports, and it's a lot easier than Warhammer. It's like a Warhammer light.
Okay. That's good. It doesn't take me 3 years to learn the rules for them to change them
Yeah.
again.
No, I don't have it here, but the cheat sheet is two-sided,
Oh, nice.
and that's it. I mean, that takes you through the whole roll, movement, dash, any attacks, and it alternates too. Everything is very simple. It's a D6. You have to, it's 2D6 when you roll, and you need to get a 7 or better. All your modifiers are either adding dice or removing dice.
Okay.
So if you're in cover, you add a die. It'll say minus dice, but what you do is you add a die, so it's 3D6, and you take the bottom 2.
Okay.
So, but if it's a plus dice, then you take the top 2. And I mean, other than that, it's very few keywords, and it seems very simple. I like simple. I
Awesome.
need it to be simple for me.
From what I hear from even from 40, especially from 40K fans, is the rules is the weakest aspect of the three main elements of the game. The most games are rules, miniatures, and lore, especially like fantasy and sci-fi games and stuff like that. Obviously, everyone loves the lore. The miniatures, although expensive, they are pretty good. You can't argue with the quality of the minis. It's just sometimes the rules, especially when they change their editions, every couple of years.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and these are these are still in playtest. So it's 1.6.3, I think, are the latest version. But it looks to be fairly simple, and it's 3x3 board or 4x4, and you throw some scattered terrain on there, and actually quite a bit. I printed a ton of scattered terrain before the printer gave up the ghost.
Oh, nice. Well, technically, you have yourself an extra piece of scatter terrain too. It's a big boulder or something.
Yep. These are all
Sandbags.
sandbags and barricades.
Cool.
Cool.
So they say you want to have as much terrain on there as possible because the snipers are brutal.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah,
Cool.
it's got some good lore too.
Cool.
That's about
Most
it.
games on those really small tables, I mean, ranges like the board for most weapons, and it's cover and terrain are your only grace.
Yeah. And you're only fighting with, small bands of people.
Yeah. All right. Jess, what you been up to?
Not a whole lot. I've been a little busy with life recently.
Yeah, that's going to be the theme of this table. Dawn, what you been up to?
Besides, perusing some cards this last week, not much. Oh, I did finally get my Kickstarter Red Dragon in.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can try that this weekend at some point. It looks, like I said, every year when we went to Gen Con, we always walked by it and was like, why don't you own a copy of that? Because it looks really fun. And it's very nicely put together. So should be fun. I'll take some pictures of that for sure. But otherwise, yeah, a whole lot of nothing. It's been work, and more work. Work is just sucked. So.
Yeah, if you didn't spend all your time at Wahoo's when you were down there, maybe you'd get some work done.
Whatever. I actually worked when I was down there. I did.
Yeah, you worked at sending me all the pictures of the great food and scenery.
Well, you got to have dinner. I mean, usually you'll work all day and then you have dinner. So I think that's allowed.
This was the trip where you guys drove right by me and didn't come.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I thought we were past this, Jim.
No.
Oh, we were past it.
Right past it.
If I remember correctly, didn't you say that you flew into Miami and he said, well, it doesn't matter, that doesn't count then?
No, that would be another trip.
That'd be another trip.
Yeah.
You could have worked with me on that one.
I know. No, we're not going to try to defend it. This was.
But have you seen the new tactic to keep the weekend warriors, credit card captains, and Googans out of the Keys? We just set the Everglades on fire and close the road so nobody can get in or out. So.
Oh, it's spring. That happens every year.
Well, it's bad this year. I mean, I don't remember.
Twice now.
Twice now they've closed off US 1 and Card Sound. So, but what have I been doing?
What have you been doing?
I haven't done jack shit. I have been working, trying to prevent people from going crazy, and I just finished my finals for this last semester. Advanced pathophysiology and was evidence-based practice. Yay. So, unfortunately, I just haven't had time to do any hobby, really, and still trying to fight off this crud.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, there's things we want to get done, and got a pile of shame that's sitting there yelling at me. But there is that.
I thought you guys were going to paint up that 75 mil pack house.
See, I told you. I told you. It's there. It's there. I haven't forgotten it, Jim.
It's in the queue.
How's Winters doing?
The what now?
Captain Winters.
He's the same.
He's just hanging out.
He's just hanging tough. So yeah, I'll be honest with you guys. Life has thrown me a curveball, and I just had no time or energy to do anything outside of surviving, with work and classes and whatnot. So hopefully things will turn around here shortly and we can do some stuff, because there's a lot of stuff I'd like to do. But let's jump to a more positive thing. Jim, what have you been up to?
Right.
Lots of work, lots of life. Nevertheless, hopefully you guys saw or our audience has seen the 80th anniversary Iwo Jima Mega Game table that we recently put on.
Yes,
or actually, I should say Pete Panzeri put it on. I helped out with some of the labels, some of the miniatures, some of the terrain, and of course, filming and putting it on, stuff like that. So that took place. It was supposed to take place on the anniversary, but things got in the way, so they had to postpone the game till sometime in March. So we got that taken care of. And then more recently, I'm going to go ahead and try and show my screen here.
Okay.
See if this works. Select a tab to share the entire screen, please. There we go. All right, so hopefully you guys are seeing some of our
Give me 1 second.
Concord.
I had to click on an authorization. I
Oh,
gotta
okay.
find my mouse button. Where's the mouse? There it is. All right.
There.
Boom.
Oh,
Look at that.
Look at that.
Nice.
So thanks very much. We played this game actually on the exact 250th anniversary of the Battle of Concord. I mean, I say battle. It was more of a shootout, really. So you got Lexington and Concord, who, I mean, some people call them battles. They really weren't. But it was the first day of the American Revolution. And some people like kind of have considered it like the actual birth of our nation, as opposed to the Declaration, which is a bunch of politicians sitting around a table, signing a piece of paper that some of them didn't sign until 8 years later.
Yeah.
So how about the people who actually, put their asses on the line and started shooting at people? So here we go. We won't go through the whole thing, but we did play this game on the actual anniversary. We've got the fateful moment on the bridge there on Concord. I mean, we don't have to go through the entire story of Concord, because it gets into, one if by sea, one if by land, two if by sea, the ride of Paul Revere and all the other guys that aren't famous, and why is Paul Revere famous and the others aren't, and James Barrett's militia and what actually happened on that bridge and who fired the first shot at Lexington. And then, of course, the real battle was the road back, which is basically Mogadishu, except we're the Somalis. And that's, a 19-mile forced march for the British from Concord all the way back to the original point in Boston, while militia are just pouring out of the woodwork from every direction. I think we already talked about this last episode, so I don't want to hit it too hard. But that's all I got. If we want to go ahead
That's
and
a beautiful
That
table.
table
Jim.
is stunning.
It is.
It looks
Oh, thank
really,
you.
really good.
Seven.
We did better than the Somalis, right?
We killed 79. They didn't kill 79 Americans at Mogadishu. So actually, yeah, we did. Yeah, we did do better.
Yeah.
I think Mogadishu wound up with 19.
19 and 3,000, depending on.
Yeah, depending on who. Yeah, they didn't. We did not lose 3,000. In fact, we barely had
They
3,000.
did.
I know. So I'm saying, but
Yeah.
we, as the Somalis in 75, we did not lose
Yeah.
3,000.
All right. So you're good with the table picture?
Yeah.
Jim? All right.
Certainly. So
Okay.
if you want to
Beautiful.
turn that off, thank you. So part one of that video comes out in about 18 hours, or maybe even a little less. Sunday or Saturday night, whichever, wherever you are in the time zones. So keep an eye out for that. Part one goes out this weekend, and part two will come out next weekend. And then after that, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I've got some I've got some Middle East. I got Somalis on the brain now. I got some Middle East, North Africa militia that have been different kind of militia, insurgents, I should say, that have been half done on the table since I think before Bill started Dick Winters. So I can't cast too much shade when it comes to not getting, hobby work done. Playing a lot of games, creating a lot of content, but as far as actual, building things,
Yeah.
painting things, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about doing Bunker Hill. 250th of Bunker Hill comes out is June of 2025. So we might do something there. That won't be in miniature though, because that battle's just way too big. You would need like 2,200 British and several hundred Patriots.
So for a point of clarification, when you say Bunker Hill, is that actually Breed's Hill or is it actually
Technically, it's everyone knows it as Bunkers Hill, but 90% of the fighting takes place on Breed's Hill.
Okay.
Yeah, there are two hills.
I kind of know something.
Wow.
There you go.
Mm.
Two hills that are kind of next to each other on the Charlestown Peninsula. They initially set up their defense on Bunker Hill, and then I think it was Israel Putnam was like, "Why are we so far back? We can set up a better defense like a couple hundred yards further forward." So everyone ran up there and built a new redoubt. And then that's where most of the fighting took place. Then they fell back again to Bunker Hill, and they fell back again completely off the peninsula.
Yeah.
So for some reason, the name Bunker Hill stuck. Even though, a little bit of shooting, but the battle really took place on Breed's Hill. Breed's Hill would be the proper name of the battle, but what are you going to do?
So are you thinking some kind of hex encounter rule set?
Yeah, the same rule set we did Kings Mountain with.
Oh, nice.
You could also, have you ever looked at Wolfun?
No.
Those are the miniatures I have for the Zulus, the acrylic ones, the 2D
Okay.
ones. They have an American War of Independence set too.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And they're pre-painted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're really nice too.
Because
They are
you
really
need
nice.
you would need a lot, and Bunker Hill's not even that big compared to some. American Revolution, the battles are pretty small in general, but Bunker Hill is 2,200 crown and at least 1,500, maybe more Patriot.
Okay. Did you see the photos we had of SITREP's Waterloo?
Yeah, back at which one was that? Adepticon. Thank you.
Yeah, that was all Wolfung.
Okay.
Yeah, it stays on weight and everything, but yeah. So that's awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean
Yeah, we have to-
the biggest battle of the American Revolution, depending on who you ask,
Yeah.
like is maybe either Long Island or Monmouth, and you've got a total combined between the two, maybe 30,000. That's both sides. Yeah.
I don't
And
think anyone wants to commit to that level of miniature.
well, I mean that's what I'm
or
saying.
even Wolfung for that matter.
Waterloo is, depending on whether or not you count the Prussians or not, like 200,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 7 times the size, easy.
Yeah, he
Crazy.
had.
Waterloo's not even the biggest battle. Leipzig is like 450,000, almost 500,000 people.
Yeah, I think Steve had 1 mini for every 10.
It's going to have to be some kind of scale, yeah.
Yeah. So he had. I mean, but he still had 35,000 minis on.
You're going
the
to need
table.
a lot, yeah.
And it was also double blind, so there was a lot of stuff not on the table.
It sounds like we need to reach out to Gaz and do a rematch.
Yeah.
I'm still sore about the the cup. I
That
want a
was our,
rematch.
That was our theoretical game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, 2025 going to, I guess, 2031 is going to be a crap ton of 250th anniversaries. Not going to turn it into the American Revolution channel, but yeah, well, we will have a little bit of Revolution content. Not a lot, because it doesn't usually do that well. But for the big ones, yeah, we're gonna do some stuff.
Yeah.
Nice. So, which was the battle outside of his house in the Patriot?
Oh well, never mind about the Patriot, but they do attempt the Battle of Camden, which is the one that the Americans lose very badly, and the battle at the end is supposed to be the Battle of Cowpens, which holy hell,
Is that what it's actually supposed to be?
It's not even close. It's they rewrote the script where they never mentioned like
right
the name. Just like they renamed his character,
Yeah.
like they fixed that in post, but it's still in the credits. Like if you go in the credits, it'll say like Cowpen Soldier number 1, Cowpen Soldier number 2.
I mean, I like the movie for just a popcorn cheesy Saturday movie, but
Yeah.
I know historically there's a lot to be desired.
You might as well be watching Lord of the Rings. It's a friggin' fantasy.
Hey, I have no
But
problem with the Lord of the Rings. With
But
everybody.
here's something to think about, Jim, or to consider. It may have gotten people who weren't knowledgeable or interested in the American Revolution to kind of go, hey, that looks cool, or that's interesting. Maybe I should look
absolutely.
into it a little more. I mean, so it's an entry vehicle, if anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I got into my Wars of Scottish Secession, is I watched Braveheart.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't know anything about it. I was like, this looks friggin' badass. And then, I went home and I started reading books. I'm like, these guys are on crack. And yeah, it's not even close. I mean, Braveheart basically says if you were to take the plot of Braveheart and put that into American history, just because we don't know Scottish history as well.
Right.
Not only was George Washington's wife cheating on him, but was cheating on him with Abraham Lincoln, and their child was Adolf Hitler. I'm not making that up. That's exactly
that's a pretty
that's
good
what,
analogy, actually.
Yeah. So not only did William Wallace and Isabel like hook up, no, they never met. She was like 5 at the time. She wasn't even in England. If they did, it was really
became
gross.
a whole different movie.
Yeah, and then
movie.
her first kid, so they make it sound like it's really his kid. It's William Wallace's kid. Is Edward III, who stomped the shit out of Scotland like 20 times worse than Longshanks ever did. I mean, Edward III just went wild, man. I mean, Edward II was a little. Whether or not he was gay or not is up for debate, but he was very weak, and the movie kind of takes liberties with that. But then after they do show him very weak, and he was weak. The record shows that. About his private life, who knows? But the grandson, man, Edward III, made his grandpappy proud, man. He just went friggin' hog wild on England. In Scotland, and did a lot of damage. That war goes on to like the 1360s. It's rough.
Crazy.
So yeah, that movie's absurd, but it does have that kind of effect though, where you watch it, you're like, oh, and then if you're interested in it, you weren't aware of it before, you start reading about it, and maybe then you kind of get your head screwed on straight.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, a lot of good American Revolution content.
Yeah, I'll be doing
I think it's a very underserved, and I know
Excuse me.
a lot of people aren't really interested in it because which is a false in itself, that it's not a worldwide conflict, but that's not necessarily true. While all the main big battles happened here in the New World, quote unquote, there were some battles or effects of the battles that took place and affected countries back in Europe.
It was a gigantic naval battle in the English Channel, way bigger than Chesapeake Capes. The last battle of the American Revolution technically takes place off of what is today Sri Lanka and the southern tip of India. And that was a monster. It was another big naval battle. And it's a big one. Yeah. It eventually involves, obviously it starts off with just us and the British, but before you know it, you got the French involved. Technically, you got the Iroquois Confederacy involved. There's 6 nations right there, if you want to get technical about it. But even if you group all the Iroquois together, that's one big confederacy. And these aren't like Plains Indians, where, Sitting Bull is riding around and, oh, yes, I have these are nations. No, this was a nation. These people were 6 nations in a confederacy. Thomas Brant had traveled to London and met the king. This was a power. Yeah. They had industry, they had weapons. They're not playing around just because they were Native Americans. So right there's 3 nations, even though some of the Iroquois Confederacy fought on our side, and 4 of the tribes stuck with the crown. 2 of them joined us. The Oneida and the begins with the T. I always botch the pronunciation, so I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, it did kind of split down the middle. Then 1777, you got or technically 78, they signed the treaty. The French are in. The French kind of get the Spanish in. They join in 1780, and by 1781, you got the Dutch. So yeah, that's 6 powers right there.
This is a good time to really look into this stuff. Also, if you're into genealogy, I found out that one of my ancestors was at Paoli.
Okay. Paoli
massacre in
Pennsylvania. That's right after Germantown in October of 77.
Yep. Yeah, we got our ass handed to us.
I don't think a shot was fired in that battle. That was all the British bayonet.
Yep.
Wow.
It was and you guys will, not to spoil the ending, but you guys will see this in the video. Americans,
I'm here.
Yeah.
Americans are great. Americans are great with muskets, and they're usually the ones with riflemen because, Sharp's rifles hasn't come around yet. Yes, you have the Ferguson's rifles and all that stuff, but that's like 20 guys, and they never really make it into the war full blast. But American missile fire is great. Once it comes down to melee, that's it.
Yeah. The British troops are much more disciplined and trained in all the melee stuff.
Well, that was actually their job versus our guys who were.
Well, remember, most of our guys weren't professional soldiers.
Right.
The British were. So
they weren't professional soldiers, and even like some of our best light infantry, the great grandfather, sort of like the beginning of today's special forces, Daniel Morgan's 11th Virginia, like the classic Virginia rifleman. Yeah, they're all civilian hunting weapons, so do not accept the bayonet.
Yeah.
So like we see in Saratoga, the 2 battles at Saratoga, they finally just sort of bolted together. Here is, of course, Morgan's Corps of Elite Riflemen, and wherever he goes, joined at the hip, he's got Henry Dearborn, Lieutenant Colonel Henry Dearborn, and his battalion of light infantry. Their job is to protect the riflemen. Because sooner or later, the British are gonna charge the riflemen, and the riflemen just have to, break out their shoelaces or their hunting knives, and you're not going to win. You're not going to win that fight. You have to have somebody with bayonets there to help out.
Yeah.
And the rifle has a terrible rate of fire. A good musket can fire 3 rounds a minute. Muskets or with rifles, maybe it's 1.
And, well, even still to this day, you charge into an ambush.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Jesse,
Mm.
your take on that?
What do you mean close ambush? Because it's a different story.
Oh, yeah,
You don't rush into an ambush unless it's close, because otherwise there's no choice.
All right. So news-wise, let's transition to a little news. You got
Yeah.
some news? You got some news.
I read a very interesting article about GW going after. They have a big lawsuit going after some small stores, like all over the place, like really cracking down. Some of them, I mean, for sure, that are selling like knockoff GW-ish type things, but they're also fining people for using the word Citadel in reference to like you can use this product with Citadel paints, or something like that. They're like even cross promoting their product, but getting dinged financially for it. And it's anywhere. What did I say? From
25,000 was the max.
Yeah, I mean, and it was like a minimum of $500 up to $25,000 per offense for people, and it's like it's a lot of small business,
So it sounds
places.
like old GW.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember, but years ago they were lawsuit happy. Anybody that had any, I produce shoulder pads for Space Marines or whatever. GW came down on them, and it sounds like they're back to doing that.
I was
again.
really surprised when I read it. I was like, why have I not heard about this? Like, it just sounded kind of nasty.
Well, some of the stuff I can understand. The amount of knockoffs that.
Yeah, 100%. That's gotten crazy, but
yeah.
For selling product, yeah, but you don't get to copyright a word.
Right.
I remember they tried to copyright I remember they tried to copyright the word marine. Fuck you.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Well, Space Marine, but yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You don't get to copyright the word space either. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, that's why.
That's not how the law works here in the United States. I don't know or care about UK law.
Yeah. However, you have to, from their point of view, you have to, where do you draw the line? So you.
I just did.
Not you.
Yeah, well.
if you're looking at all these people that are ripping you off, and
making and selling the product, absolutely.
Yeah, and so what's happening over time? People are getting more and more and more bold in some of the shit they're pulling off. And so you have something sweeping, and a lot of the stuff that's more on the edge is not going to go through. It's. But it's still, this way, at least for the next 5-10 years or whatever, it'll be easy. I mean, people will be a little bit more resistant to trying to cash in on their name.
Leaving aside the fact that, Warhammer is basically a 40-foot pile of plagiarized garbage to begin with. It's plagiarized. It is plagiarized from
They're all plagiarized, though.
I'm not trying to get into that with you, Jim. I'm just saying I can see a point of view. But should they let people just keep reselling their IP?
No, free selling your IP. No, that's different. That's
again, where do you draw the line? Other than the Space Marine, I got it. I don't think they're doing that this time. They tried to do it before.
Making I mean, if you want to go after people who are manufacturing product that could easily pass as GW product, that's pretty clear.
Yeah,
you have to have a physical item, or an STL file or something. Like I know some people get in trouble for even printing. Like you're not allowed to use 3D printed miniatures on like a GW event.
Right.
Yeah.
From what I hear, I mean, I've never really been one.
And
So
if I was printing a like little 4-pack holder for the Citadel paints. Before I try to sell them, I would reach out to them and go, "Hey, you okay with me using the name?"
And they would say, "F off, Chris. Absolutely not." Here's point,
I would make sure that their name, Citadel Paints, would not show up anywhere in there. It'd be like, "Oh, these are for the 22 millimeter pots."
Right.
I mean, so if you're putting Citadel Paints in there, then you're stupid. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Citadel Paints is a trademarked company. That's a subsidiary of GW, right?
Yeah.
Before I put my foot in my mouth.
I mean, at some point, people have to, protect their stuff, and so maybe you go a little bit farther, and it stops people from doing it next time. You've got the neighbor who keeps coming in your yard. You can either push him out of your yard or you could beat his ass. So next time he thinks about it twice. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And another thing is that most, like you mentioned, there's a lot of small stores. These people don't have a platoon of lawyers.
Yes, exactly.
That can take
will
GW to
kill.
court.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be interesting to get more background as
That
to
is
what.
flat out some of these lawsuits. I'm not a lawyer, but a lot of these lawsuits sound flat out illegal, at least here in the States. But guess what? You're going to have to fight them in court, and most people can't afford to do that. I mean, GW's a relatively large company. They're not as big as most people think they are, but I mean, for a gaming company, they're probably the biggest.
Yeah.
They're massive.
Well, and they probably have the most solid foothold. I mean.
Well,
So
like I said,
even if you do want to fight them, you're fighting an uphill battle.
Absolutely.
There's a resource. So I guess they're counting on that most people aren't going to either not bother or they couldn't, even if they wanted to bother it.
Yeah.
Or just like going, like we were talking about Citadel paints. Okay, I've got a 4-pack holder for 22 millimeter paint pots.
Yeah.
Just rechange. Just
well,
leave all
like I
their
said,
stuff
it would
out.
be interesting to hear what some of the details of what they're actually going after. If it is actual, I created a space warrior and it looks exactly like a space marine. Obviously,
Space
course,
Marine
GW
Space Marine spelled with a Y or something.
Yeah, with a Z. Yeah.
So,
Space Marines.
another interesting related to historical wargaming. For all of those people who play Flames of War,
Oh yeah.
Phil Yates is stepping down. Phil Yates, for those who don't know, is one of the major creative powers behind Flames of War. He's been at it since pretty much the beginning, 25 years. And he is stepping away, and he's going to be working on his own project.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's a World War II dogfighting game or something like that, if I remember correctly. And please forgive me.
I got to interview him once, but sometimes you hear like so-and-so is stepping down, like immediately you start to wonder, like, oh,
yeah.
Because a lot of these people are, our age or up, and it's like, is everything okay?
Yeah, exactly.
But he's starting his own project. I'm like, oh, great.
Retiring.
Yeah.
Maybe they're financially sound enough to retire.
That's true. What's that like? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm probably working up until noon on the day of my funeral.
Yeah. No, I know when you said that the other day, you didn't elaborate on what else with that, just that he was stepping away.
Right.
Like an aircraft dogfighting game, like kind of like a fighter battle.
Something
like that.
Something like that. Let me pull it up here real quick.
Okay.
We got the Pacific rules coming out.
Mhm.
Pacific art, all the Pacific stuff. I got some leopards.
Oh yeah, the new 2A7s for your more modern Team Yankee games.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Team Yankee is officially, I don't want to say giving up on, but they're expanding beyond the original premise.
Yes.
Definitely. I mean, I guess they've been doing that for a while, but
which is needed.
Yeah.
Truthfully. Oh, what the heck?
That's why I'm a firm believer in screenshot. When I see something, I'm like, we gotta talk about that later. Screenshot.
Team Yankee, when Team Yankee first came out, they were really in a bit of a tough spot there because it was like, do we stick to the source material, which was wrong and inaccurate, or do we stick with what we know was actually going on, or what would have gone on in 1985 if that had actually gone up? And they chose to stick with the source material. The problem is the source material, the Team Yankee novel, is not its own universe. That is set in another novel. A lot of people don't know that. It's set in Sir John Hackett's Third World War, August 1985, written in 75, 76, published in 77, something like that. When 1985 was the grim, dark future.
Isn't it funny how that works? Yeah.
Just said grim, dark.
I know, Jim. What the heck?
Let me peek out the window here.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's weird? I've got a good buddy of mine, Sergeant First Class Bounder, and he was reading Team Yankee while he was a tanker in Germany, and the unit that's in the book, he was actually in that unit. and he was
It's like 1st Battalion, 78th.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm on that. He goes, I'm reading this. He goes, think about being in the Fulda Gap, looking across the fucking border, he was on the tank that was featured in the book. He
The
goes,
original
do you know
M1.
how surreal that is?
Mm-hmm.
It's gotta be crazy.
Yeah.
The original M1. I mean, the American stuff is pretty solid. Because whatever, I mean, it's not that the guy who wrote the original book was the Third World War in Europe was a British former NATO commander of Forces Europe. So I mean, if it was ever a authority on the subject, it's going to be him. But he's writing 10 years in his future, and certain things just don't turn out the same way.
Yeah. And regardless, I mean, you could be spot on with everything with the infantry, but you're not going to know everything about the artillery or about the armor. I mean, you will know enough, but there's still going to be some things that are off.
So there's John Hackett, and then the Team Yankee novel. It was his first novel, Harold Coyle's first novel. He makes up his own, big story stuff now, but at the time he's like, I'm not going to try to make up my own. It's actually in this forward. I'm not going to try to, create my own universe, I guess. So he just took it from Sir John Hackett. And so he fixed any of the armor stuff that was off because it was a lot later. In fact, I think it was after 85. He was actually a major in American armor at the time. I think he retired. He's either a major or lieutenant colonel. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously he knows the stuff. But like T-72s, why are we fighting T-72s? So it should be T-80s at least. I mean, they fixed it later, but...
Yeah, so Phil Yates, so he's going to be creating his own World War II dogfighting game called Angels 1-6. And then Evan Allen, who was the other major designer behind Flames of War, he's just retiring. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from here. So
Angels 1-6, that's 16,000 feet?
I'm assuming so.
I can't remember if it's thousands or hundreds. It has to be thousands.
Somehow
Angels
this
thousands.
is more natural,
Angels is thousands.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to Kickstarter sometime this summer. It's I'm not sure what the scale is here, but it's your typical little World War II airplanes on some kind of like the antenna pivot stands, you can raise and lower for altitude, whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see what makes this game different than some of the other games that are out there.
Probably starting the Battle of Britain.
Right.
Every time I've tried to come up with a dogfighting game, you always start in the Battle of Britain because number one, everyone knows about it, and it's one of the few air battles where the two primary fighters that are constantly at it are almost perfectly matched.
Oh yeah.
The BF-109E and the first Mark 1A variant of the Spitfire. So it's a pretty easy game to set up. 3 planes versus 3 planes, 4 versus 4, whatever.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about but the like say the Pacific. The Zero was so much more maneuverable than the Wildcat, but the Wildcat was tougher, and the Zero had more firepower, but only if the 20mm cannon was actually working that day, and all this stuff you have to juggle around. Very, very similar aircraft.
Well, and on other World War II game news, Chain of Command is coming out with 2nd edition. And what else? Still interesting news from some game companies about the whole tariffs and whether they're going to do things. And, a few more companies, I think, have backed out of Gen Con. And
I got a very cryptic Kickstarter update from Gale Force 9 on my Star Trek Ascendancy game.
Oh no, not Star Trek.
It's fine. It's still happening, but like they did, in my opinion, a pretty good job of tap dancing around. We don't really know, and we'll keep you as best informed as we can, but there'll probably be additional costs, but we don't know what they are, and it just was like, I knew it was coming, but it was like, and there it is. So we'll see.
It got pushed back another 90 days, right? Because
I think so. Something.
Yeah. We got to play that Star Trek role-playing game.
Here we go again.
I want to command my Romulan Scimitar class battleship.
Yeah. I've got my character already set up for that game.
What
Yeah.
a tribble!
Nope.
No, Sherman T. Pata.
What?
Sherman T. Potter, but not Potter.
Mash?
Potter.
Yeah,
That's
I
an
ain't coming up
interesting.
with names.
That's a question. I mean, are we going? Does that work where like all the characters are like a crew on the same ship, or
You can be.
okay?
You can be anything. It depends on. A lot of it depends on the scenario you're doing. Whether it's you can be the crew, you could be the Klingons, you could be,
Multiple captains, different ships.
you could be whatever.
Yeah, because some people want their own agency. I don't want to be stuck going where everyone else is going.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to keep the party from getting split up. Just put them on a
Right,
ship and throw them a
That's
couple thousand
true.
light years out in the middle of
But
nowhere.
that's
Well, yeah,
rule
you could
number
be,
one. Never leave the party.
Never split the
Never
party.
get off the boat is rule number one.
Yeah, if you want to learn how to not split up your party, play Zombicide a few times.
Or just watch Custer.
With our grandson Joe, because if you want to see how to
Leroy
make it go bad.
Jenkins.
Yep, we're not ready to go in there yet. I'm
Yep,
going
too
in
late.
there. Like no.
We've been playing some Dark Star at the club, old school. Like we usually play it on computer. Now we're playing it with miniatures again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And if there's like 3 ships and a hex, and then one ship's 1 hex away, and then for some reason someone can't quite make the turn, you take maneuvering thruster damage, and you're like, I can't turn as quite as fast as everybody else can. One ship gets 2 or 3 hexes out of everyone else's anti-aircraft fire, torpedo bait. Everything just it descends on him, and he's just gone.
Yeah.
You got to keep your formation tight in that game.
Outside of that, for news, is there any new big releases that anybody's been?
Not that has specifically caught my attention.
No.
You? No.
I haven't seen anything that I even remotely am excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen
Like-
something.
What's that?
Oh.
Daggerheart. I don't know much about it, but Daggerheart is being released here shortly.
Isn't that an RPG?
It is a tabletop RPG, and it's from Critical Role.
Oh, that's the
Oh.
other game that they're playing. Yes. I was like, why do I know
Yeah.
the name of that? It
Because
wasn't
it's the
clicking.
game that they created.
Yeah.
But wait, is it just going to be we're going to play as the Critical Role characters,
No, it's
or
a whole different TTRPG.
So basically, they got in a piss and match with Wizards of the Coast about D&D, so they created their own version of an RPG, and
or they've just been playing long enough to where they know that there's some stuff that they want to change and
yeah,
may as well make their own. I mean, they're
it's a card
making enough
game?
money.
it's
True.
I still don't fully understand what's going on with that D&D thing, because like the only RPG I ever got into since 1990 was the whole White Wolf,
yeah.
and like on page 2 they say feel free to ignore this entire book. They even spell it ROOLZ. Feel free to ignore the rules.
The rules.
The rules, yeah. They're like, if you want to add something to the game, add it. If you want to change it, change it. Here's some
Yeah.
suggestions. Here are some permutations. There's no
Yeah.
like, well, we're playing edition 3.5 on this table. You know, this isn't your dad's D&D anymore. And blah, 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 blah.
And you know what? I was having this talk with a friend of mine the other day. You know, it's like when you're trying a recipe, right? When you're trying a new recipe, you do the recipe as written the first time. Understand
certainly,
the ins you understand the ins and outs and the nuances. Then you can make your changes.
Do I do that?
I agree 100%.
I can't
Yeah,
see
ish.
you know, I can't see you following any rules because you are the type of man that says, I am who I am and I will do it my way.
Yeah, but even with cooking though, you do like you'll take out one of your good cookbooks. You'll pick something that you like the sound of.
Yeah.
You might make a modification, but it's less likely on the
Well,
first pass.
Yeah.
So here is my personal take on D&D and the history of and the current.
Yeah. I'm trying
Current
to stay
status
away
of
from
it.
that just to be able to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Because
But,
I enjoy the game.
I think here's my honest opinion, and I have not really played D&D seriously in several years. I mean, we've played old
You don't
school
think
rules.
the game we played with Joe was serious?
Mm.
I tried. honestly, I feel that once TSR sold the rights and everything of D&D to Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro, it changed the game.
Yep.
It if you guys remember, if you played it back in the day, I'm gonna sound like an old fart, but when you played it back in the 80s, before it got sold to Hasbro Wizards of the Coast, it had almost a homebrew feel, even in second edition. There was so much creativity, and I'm not saying there isn't creativity now. Don't get me wrong, but to me now it's almost like you're spoon-fed stuff. You know, there's a book for everything. There's spell cards and all this other stuff where you really don't have to be creative to play D&D anymore, because you can just go out and buy something for that thing. You know,
Some
it's
board games,
true.
that's it.
I'm not, you know, you know, back in the day, you had the player's manual, you had the dungeon master's guide, and you had the monster manual. That was it. And then scenarios, right?
That's all you needed. Then if you wanted to get into Greystone, Ravenloft, Forgotten Realms, yeah.
But, you know, you didn't have cards for spells, you know, for this. And then the whole, we're going to have multi-class. I mean, you know, it just got,
multi-class.
I mean, I'm, you know, if you look at the original rules of D&D, you had humans, dwarves, elves, fighters, you know, and then as it advanced into the advanced rules, you picked a race and then you picked a class. So you were able to, because, you know, I want to be an elf ranger. Anybody surprised by that?
No.
Okay. No. You know, whereas before you could be an elf or you were a ranger.
Yeah.
You know, if you guys, anybody out there play OSR, old school rules, we played that with my former boss down in Florida. He had a gaming night on Monday nights or something like that, but we played it. I just, sometimes I kind of feel sad for new players to D&D that they're not getting the true essence of D&D.
Yeah,
in some aspects.
And I agree with you on that. You know, I can see. I've played the old one. I'm playing the new one, and I can see. I can see both sides of it. You know, I do like the new rules because the new rules are the same as the 2014 rules. They're just so much of the errata over the last decade has just been rolled into it. They've fixed a lot of things. Before, if you followed, you know, I've got a party of, you know, I'm the DM and I've got a party of third level characters. You know, the challenge rating for what monsters you throw at them was just, you know, way off. So they've gone and fixed a lot of things. They've taken a lot of the home rules into it. But you also have to understand a lot of, how do I say this? A lot of people that are not very open and, you know, that are somewhat shy. My sister's stepson is terminally shy. But when we get him playing D&D, he opens up. He's you know, he talks, which was amazing.
Right.
But you have to understand a lot of the people that go to the game shops, and a lot of those people are going to try to be more inclusive. So then you get into some of the wokeness stuff, but they've also balanced out some things, you know.
Wait a minute, Chris. That's a whole different subject.
Well, yeah.
Nowhere in the rules of D&D, even in the original ones, was anybody excluded from playing.
No,
anybody. The whole idea is role-playing game is I'm going to play a character that I'm not an elf, so you know, but I want to be an elf in the game. Right. So,
but if you wanted to be a elf ranger, you just said you couldn't
in the first edition, and then it developed because they understood that.
Okay, so you know now, I mean, you could be literally anything. I want to see if I can play a dwarf barbarian, which
you could always
weird as it sounds, you can play it.
Yeah.
I personally am not a fan.
And it wasn't so much. My point wasn't so much about inclusivity or any of that. My point was when you played it originally, you had to be more creative than you do now.
Yeah.
You had to create your worlds. I mean, you had what's the first module? Borderlands. You know, which it's still an amazing module. I don't care what anybody says. I still love that thing. To me, that is D&D. But you had to create worlds. I mean,
2024.
Right. I remember spending all my free time, quote unquote, at school, creating dungeons and and encounters.
Yeah.
And nowadays you can go to a game store, you can go to Barnes and Noble, any place, and you can buy just about every D&D book there is. You can buy one on I'm not saying it takes away from the game. I just feel that it's the evolution of the game has changed so much that the original thought, feelings behind it aren't the same.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. There are some things we were talking about the other day. I still remember longingly for some of the original games where you as a player, you mapped out where you were at.
Exactly.
Your DM is telling you, okay, you enter a tunnel that is 10 feet wide, 30 feet long, and then it ends at a door.
You're talking about the old graph paper and pencil.
Yes, graph paper and pencil, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's how I learned to play in third.
Yeah, and that is great. And sometimes I long to go back to that. But you were talking about the spell cards. There are so many spells and other stuff. It is nice for people like me that don't have all this stuff memorized, just to have the spell cards that I have prepared ready for me.
Yeah.
Which one, and you don't need that as a player. You don't need anything more than the player's guide.
Right.
And your imagination. You don't have to have minis. You don't have to have the spell cards. You don't have to have, the maps. You don't have to. You can easily do a dungeon crawl. Very easily.
Well, a lot of those extra resources are incumbent on the dungeon master, storyteller, referee, whatever.
A lot of that stuff is up to you as the player. If you are a warlock and you want to have spell cards, you can go buy spell cards. It's easier than having them all. Some people, like you, sir, I know people that love Excel, and they will copy and paste all their spells, and they'll have their own player sheet. You could do that. You can have your own player sheet on a effing index card. It is up to you how far you want to go into it. Now, DMs, sometimes they want to make it more fun, more, immersive, right? Hey, here's a potion for you. And you give a little potion bottle and it's got 4D4s in it, right? So I'm taking the potion. You take the cork off and you pour it out. It's kind of cool. Do you need that? No, not at all. But, if you're playing it, then you try to, there's little things that we all want to do. I have no problem with doing a dungeon crawl and everything else like that. I enjoy it. I agree with Bill. I do not like multi-class, especially the people who like, okay, at 5th level, I'm going to take one class of this so I get an extra attack. And, that's just metagaming. And I'm not a fan for the people that are metagaming.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's just the evolution of the game.
It's don't you think to a degree it's both the longevity of the game in general in terms of what you literally had available to you at the very beginning because it was new and they were building the concept and the world and the things in it like anything else, like Magic, as cards, content gets added, you now have more options and things available to you. But on the other side of it too, and Chris, you tapped on this a little bit. You've got different people trying to play the game too. And like, I can use my two youngest together, Jake and Ben, their thought processes worked so differently. I had one extremely literal thinker and one very abstract thinker. And so, Jacob would do much better in an environment where you've got a physical map laid out that he can look at. He can see something tangible. He might need the things to help guide and have him be able to participate willingly in the game. Where Benjamin, you can just give him a basic concept of something and he'll create something wild and crazy and, and be able to participate in that way. Brain works differently. And so I can see
I think a lot of that comes down to the different kinds of groups you can have. You got
Yep.
It's up to the storyteller, game master, whatever, dungeon master, to sort of synergize his or her group. Try to include everybody, but not all groups are going to work as well as some other groups,
Right.
And then
Yeah,
also
no,
like different systems.
Yeah.
Yep.
Again, I think it comes down to the modern version is not bad or anything like that. It's just, I think the age of discovery has moved on, right?
Yeah.
I can remember playing Twilight 2000.
Now talk about a game,
right?
Talk about a game where you need an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the old version, the old GDW version.
Yeah. We have all the new rules. We could play Twilight 2000 right now. They're all on our rules depository, but or the old Star Trek game back in the days. I can't remember, but
there's 2 or 3 of them.
The Starship Battles one where
Starship Battles is pretty mellow, but then there's Starship Tactical Combat Simulator.
Yeah. So
it's like it came out right after Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3, where the battle is 2 ships. And that's going to take you 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
Because you have a control panel and you have points you have to put. I mean, it's not even really a role-playing game.
No, it's not. But, to age, I was addicted to role-playing games in the 80s, in the early 80s, early to mid, before like my senior year of high school. I played D&D. Yep. And now I'm going to really throw myself out there. I played Indiana Jones RPG. And I played James Bond RPG.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I did the BattleTech one.
Mech Warrior.
Yeah, Mech Warrior. So
the RPG for BattleTech.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I remember spending hours with the Mech Warrior. My brother and I, creating the mechs and doing the things, and trying to create new scenarios for James Bond. Who's going to be the master villain, and what stupid thing is he going to escape from, and all that good stuff. I don't know.
If you played Twilight 2000, the old GDW Twilight 2000, which I have some of the books for.
Yeah.
Stop me if I've told this story. I wasn't even running this game, thank God. I was just a player. But he was trying to get people to play, so he was like giving us like lavish amounts of equipment. We're trundling around southern Poland in an Abrams, like the M1A1 Abrams. And we come into this Polish village, and here's some Russian guy wants to be a hero and poke an RPG out at us. I'm like, all right, we put a Willie Pete 120 into that building. Okay, gunner loaded, on the way, up on the way. He sends it down range, and then he like breaks out this calculator and a sheet of notebook paper. He starts figuring out the math. I'm like, that's a good place to stop before we get into this whole new battle. We're gonna head down the block and get Subway. We're gone for like 40 minutes because we have like 6 sandwiches we have to get. We come back, he's still tapping away at his calculator and scribbling away on his. I'm like, I thought you were done. Like, we thought you'd be waiting on us impatiently. He's like, I'm only halfway through this damage calculation. I'm like, we've been at it for 40 minutes. It was that, and then the sequel game, Traveler 2300. Holy
that one I never. Yeah, that one.
Now, what's cool is I'm playing a weird version of Traveler right now. So I've got a friend who's running a campaign I'm part of, and Traveler is the map that we're using in all the sectors, which is pretty slick. It's all pre-built. You can get books for all the different sectors. We are playing, but the RPG version of it, or that portion of it, we're playing with Stars Without Number. Okay. And then when it comes down to the mech battles, we're using Lancer. Because the mech battles in Stars Without Numbers is not as complicated or as good as Lancer. But Lancer doesn't have the RPG, the TTRPG version of it.
Right.
So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Sort of Frankenstein your game together, different settings.
Yeah, and our GM is effing outstanding. I mean, it took us a little while to get going and understand the pieces of it. But here's my big stompy robot.
Nice.
What's
on his shoulder?
Yeah.
So, what other big games were in the 80s and 90s? Bill, did you ever get into any Palladium stuff? D20 Palladium? A lot of stuff I got into by like cultural osmosis. Like there was another guy in our group who wanted to run this, and I wasn't really into it, but everybody else was. I'm like, all right, I'll try it on a Friday. That's what's going on. So I wound up with a Teenage Ninja Mutant character, Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtle, but you didn't have to play a turtle. So I wound up with Dude McDillo of the Clan McDillo.
Yeah.
My Scottish
That's
armadillo.
awesome.
Yeah.
Dude
Nice.
McDillo of the Clan McDillo. I still have his character sheet somewhere, a little drawing of
I
him.
love
He's got
that.
two little katanas.
I'll be honest with you, Jim. I was outside of the James Bond, which was did the James Bond RPG. It was who was it? Victory Games. I was a TSR fanboy. I mean, if it had TSR on the box,
had a bunch of war games that were all like there was a different one for each of the James Bond movies at the time.
Yeah.
I remember those.
And the sad thing is, I actually had most of them. Look, Victory Noble Knight Games has it. Oh, I might have to start collecting James Bond again.
Lord.
But I if it had TSR on it, I pretty much got it, collected it.
This Sunday's game, this Sunday's video, the Battle of Concord, technically uses TSR's second edition battle system.
Oh, does it?
Originally written for D&D, and I put it in the video. I'm like, what's the system we're using for our super realistic American Revolution battle? TSR battle system for Dungeons and Dragons. Don't leave. Don't leave. Don't laugh. I promise.
But it's a good set, though.
Yeah.
It is the best miniatures game, like for like old hack and slash and stuff like that. Like formation linear game for like just basic stuff. How to change formation, how to go from skirmisher to line, how to go from line back to skirmisher, from column to online, how frontage works. It's one 20 millimeter base, or it's a 25 millimeter base for a 20 millimeter figure. For 10 guys, and of course we leave out like 90% of the game because there's no dragons in the American Revolution, unfortunately. No one's wearing any armor, so no one's casting any magic, so you can eject like 80% of the game. You can just jettison it right off the bat.
Yeah, that would be so epic to have Fireball.
But you take stuff like that and you're like, okay, they don't have rules for like 6-pounders in battle system or 12-pounders, but they do have rules for, trebuchets and fireballs. Okay, how can you kind of kit bash that and make it work? The only major G&A difference is that I converted it all to run on D10s, whereas in battle system, you run different sided dice.
Right.
Big peasant rabble's a D4, light infantry's a D6, stuff like that. Long swords are D8s.
And we have really gone off the rails because what's brought us to this was Daggerheart, which is the new version. We said what's coming out, and that's using a D12 system.
Strange.
Very strange.
Just go for Thaco, baby. Just Thaco. That's all we need. Just Thaco.
Thaco? I'm sorry.
2-hit armor class 0. Oh, yeah.
Come on. If you're a classic D&D player, you would know Thaco.
Yeah, it was there, but I'm old, man. You know that.
You always have to count backwards. That's the only thing I don't remember not liking about Thaco. My armor class
the math
is great.
Was hard.
It's a -2. Like the higher your armor class, the worse it is.
Yeah. I have a -5 armor class.
But I feel that way about most war games. Oh man, this tank has a chance to hit of 6+. This tank is better. What do you mean better? It says 5+. Oh, that's right. Everything's backwards.
Yeah, that's when they switched the rules in Warhammer to the new system. 5-6 years ago? Because it's complete opposite of what it used to be for the rolls. That confused the crap out of me because I had a huge break between it. Because now their entire system's backwards.
Yeah. Could you imagine something that actually can look at your life and give you what your character sheet would be in real life?
We've done this.
Get up, my knees are pretty bad, and so my dexterity is -2.
Vampire 2nd edition Player's Guide had an article in the back of the book called Above and Beyond. And it was only do this with groups that you trust. Only do this with hardcore friends. Turn off, there was no cell phones in those days. Unplug the phone, lock the doors because this is serious. Don't do this with a new group that you don't know anybody. But sit down one day and just, give it a shot. Sit down with a character sheet. I mean, if you guys are familiar with the storyteller system was very similar to what we used to run HK Ops with. I basically stole HK Ops from the Storyteller system in a lot of ways. You had an attribute from 1 to 5, and you had a skill from 1 to 5. So if you could count from 1 to 5 and then add those two numbers together to get a number between 2 and 10, you had the game beat. It was that simple. Total narrative driven. The rules are a joke. I mean, but it was written that way on purpose. It was no feats or levels or any. It was not that kind of game. It was like mind's eye theater kind of stuff. And they say, look, you normally start off with 7 dots in your. You pick one. You have mental attributes, physical attributes, social attributes. You get 1 dot in each one, in each of the attributes in there, and then you get 7 dots to put in whichever one you want. Like you want a brainy character, pick mental, and you get to put 7 additional dots among your mental attributes. You want to be a social butterfly, you put 5 dots in there, and your weakest abilities you put your 3. So you wind up with and it's all budget. There's no dice rolling in the game, or there's no dice rolling in the character creation, and you get to budget up your character or whatever until you sit down and look. It'd be like us sitting down around a table. All right, I'm going to make up which. My main werewolf character, his name is James Johnson, James Namer of Battles Johnson. He started off as me in like 1995 or something. And you sit down with your friends and you're like, okay, in those days, 3 in strength from 1 to 5, like 2 in dex. I'm kind of clumsy. And I was still in the Marine Corps back then. I gave myself like a 3 in stamina. And they're like, 3 in stamina? The hell are you talking about? You scored like a 112 on your last PFT. Knock that stamina down to a 2, man. What are you talking about? 3 in stamina. Like, what are you talking about, man? You just gave yourself 4 dots in manipulation. Like, yeah, and bro, if you had 4 dots in manipulation, we wouldn't be having this argument. You would have already manipulated me into letting you keep that freaking score. And you, Carl, what are you talking about with your 3 dots in appearance, you ugly bastard? It's harsh, man. And you fill out your entire character sheet like a job application. And then you pass it off to the other players, and they're like, no. Then you get to your vampire clan. Like what clan would actually embrace you? You don't get to pick that. You step out in the hallway, and the rest of the group says, okay, what are we going to do to this guy?
Yeah. Is this like Vampire Masquerade? Like
it is Vampire Masquerade.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the White Wolf.
You pick your nature, but you don't pick your demeanor. The rest of the group picks your demeanor for you. You come back and you look at your character sheet. You're like, oh my, is this what you guys really think of me? And then you guys know how vampire
Chris,
games
I think
go.
we better never do that.
The first thing that happens is, your family starts getting wiped out. You die, technically. I mean, it's a harsh way to game.
Yeah.
But,
Chris, your mic ain't picking you up.
Is he still muted?
I don't know.
I'm not heard him all of a sudden.
He's been talking to himself, so.
Oh, no.
I don't know what happened. So, I'm like, I better never play that with Marty and Bill, because I was like, how the fuck do I have a -2 in charisma?
Oh, you're gonna get turned into the Bruja vampires.
They picked Bruja for me.
There you go.
They picked Bruja for me. So yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know how we got into the RPG, but Jim, there is now a World War II RPG from
yeah, I saw that.
What the heck's their name?
So, what is the premise? Can you play as soldiers, spies, like civilian? How's that work?
Daggerheart?
No.
It's
Firelock Games.
Firelock Games, the World War II RPG. We've run this. Yep. We've run this before, and we never played this system before. We've done World War II RPGs before. Any kind of like real military RPG. This is why we did HK Ops, where you were private military contractors, because you run into problems. Like everyone has to be American. Everyone has to be a man. Everyone has to be, if you're like an infantry squad, World War II, everyone has to be white. I hate to say it. There are things that you have to look out for.
Yeah, because this one is based on you and your friends play the roles of heroic soldiers parachuting into Normandy during Operation Overlord.
There you go.
Or as a harried tank crew grinding their way through France.
Same thing.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so.
Who's the tank commander? Because now you're playing the military where you don't get to disagree with whoever the party leader is,
It'd be, what? I'm probably, now I'm going to have to pick up the damn PDF at least. Just so I can read it.
I can see it. You parachute in and you spend the whole game session trying to find your friends.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that first session, yeah, you're going to be lost.
Where is everybody?
What do you mean you're the 101st? I'm with the 82nd. Yeah.
You're
What
the
do you mean
101st
you're the
now.
British 6th, parachute regiment? You're supposed to be 100 miles away from me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know if anyone got
Some
that
folks
lost.
make it
Because
through the whole war with the wrong units.
Almost.
I've driven that road. That's a good 100, 110 miles. But 82nd and 101st definitely got intermingled.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
We could do Arnhem. We could do
do all sorts
Garden.
of stuff.
Sweet
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well,
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it's
beforehand.
impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible because we've done it. We've done it successfully. Not just with HCAPs, but with World War II. We did World in Flames, which was like World War II. We set it in Mage the Ascension, also in White Wolf, that Jesse was referring to. But there are things you have to look out for. There are little pitfalls that are unusual compared to what most people are used to who are playing. If you just took like a D&D crew of players and dropped them into like a strict World War II historical setting, there's going to be some adjustments. If everyone's cool with that up front, certainly, but
there's
it doesn't technically have to be. Well, I mean, because there's still a lot of stuff in World War II. You could do an OSS team. You could do.
Well, that was my question. But then Bill was saying you are the paratroopers.
Well, that's just the intro. So I'm assuming it allows you to expand upon that.
Because I mean, we're talking spies from British.
Totally.
Well, here's the thing: you could do.
Operations.
Somebody could play the German officer or
French
whatever French resistance. I mean, or we just have a really cool guy that knows how to write rules to different things, and we just create our own.
I mean, didn't they just?
I wonder if I know somebody
run this
like
chronicle
that.
before. We called it World in Flames. Yes, we stole the name from a big World War II role playing war game. We did steal the name, and it was Mage. I mean, if you're familiar with the White Wolf games that Jesse was talking about, it was Mage in World War II, and we were basically, there's a war within the war. There's always like this secret level. So you go into MI6 or you go into MI5, and then you walk down the hallway. Okay, there's a door that leads to MI6. No one goes in there unless you have certain clearance. You go down to MI6, then you go into Office of Services, Special Operations Executive, the SOE. The whole Bureau of Ungentlemanly Warfare and stuff like that. And in our little universe, there was like an MI7. These are the supernaturals. And we had a German defector. I played a Russian. Surprise, surprise. Jen played a national Chinese. And I can't remember everybody else. We had like an Irishman in there, an American.
Just kind of a mix of everyone.
Because people wanted to play different nationalities, different genders, and for Mage, different houses and different traditions of mages. So you learn different stuff easier.
Yeah.
So,
and of course, the Germans had their like special branch of the SS, like get a Fenris werewolves and shit out of the Black Forest. And we had all these fun battles. You can do it. It's just there are things you have to look out for with a military or military-esque RPG.
Yeah, and if you've got the werewolves and the zombies, then you're entering Castle Wolfenstein, and just bring that full circle.
The classic.
Yeah.
Good game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so there's more to historical wargaming than just miniatures. You could do RPGs.
So Don, since you're back, Dragonheart is dropping the 23rd, I think.
Okay.
Daggerheart or Dragonheart?
Wait, we're talking about the movie?
In my head, it auto-corrected. I didn't even catch it.
I didn't know when we started talking about something else, so I had to ask.
But I do have one last thing.
Go for it.
Can you pull up that link I put into the chat earlier? Okay. I will pull it up. And
I don't have... Well, hold on a minute. I don't know if I have it.
Oh no, am I still sharing?
Are you talking about this
Yes,
creature
please.
caster thing?
Okay.
Yeah, you're still here, Jim.
No, he's asking
My
if
other
you're still
screen was-
sharing.
Good.
No, you're not still sharing.
I hate if my
So-
screen sharing all the time.
So, not to be Debbie Downer, but Marty and I had a phenomenal instructor when we were at Adepticon, and her name is Michelle Farnsworth. She was battling brain cancer, and this mini was created in her honor. She said that's how she felt when she was going through all of her chemo.
Wow.
So half of the money goes to a good cause. So
Very nice.
yeah, Michelle was good people. You heard me and Marty talking about the great class that we had on blood, pus, gore, and something else. Remember that? Yeah, she was the one who taught it.
Yep.
And it was a great course. Unfortunately, she passed last year. But this was for her in her honor, and I thought this would be a good place to share it. So it is a really cool mini. Check it out, Creature Caster, and half the proceeds go to help fight cancer.
Very nice.
Love that.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, if you guys didn't check out the Little Wars video interview wrap up, it's up live. Please check that out. Make sure you check out Jim's first part of his battle report. Stop sharing. I fine. I'll stop sharing. For this weekend, doing a little bit of American Revolution love, and and then go on from there, and then hopefully we can reach out to Gaz, that British guy, and maybe we can do the American British Cup again and see if I can take home the trophy this time.
I hate to say it, Gaz was well prepared for that game. He had plans on sheets of paper. He knew linear tactics. He knew the system. He was
I just wing it.
He was ready to go.
Yeah. No. So Jim, I don't think you've ever had the honor or privilege to play a game against that guy. Don, do you want to tell him what the experience of playing a game?
I played games against Gaz many times. I played Italians versus his. No, he had the Italians. I played British versus his Italians at Derna Airfield. We did all those play tests. I mean, they technically were play tests, so they weren't really like real games.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. He's very well prepared when it comes to games.
Yeah, when he decides he's going to play something, he commits.
That's what I like.
And I mean, bless his heart. He's picked up Magic just so that we can play on Arena, and brutal. I mean, Jesus.
Joey?
Yes, because he knows what he's doing. It's not like random luck, like when Joe plays against
the
you.
luckiest thing I've
He doesn't know what he's doing. He sells it really good.
No, he definitely does now. He's gotten very good at it. But yeah,
before. I mean, not even.
No, it is not on the same level as playing against Gaz.
The next game we got to set up is Gaz versus, wait for it, Rasmus.
That
guy gets clinical. He's an engineer by trade.
Yeah,
you get him in a good game with Darkstar. I got players who don't want to play Darkstar anymore because they're afraid of Rasmus. Rasmus just
Wow, he's got a reputation.
He's got a rep.
Yep.
All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the show. Again, thank you to everybody who supports us. Please like, subscribe, share. Click the bell, all that good stuff. Comments, please drop a comment or something below. If there's an idea or if you have a battle or whatever that you would like to see or hear about, please let us know. We're always looking for good ideas. And then
look at the bad ideas.
Go from there.
All ideas will be considered.
All bad ideas can be addressed to Chris at SITREP Podcast.com.
Chris doesn't need any bad ideas. He's good on his own.
All right, guys, we're going to leave it at that. And we thank you very much. And we will see you in the next one.
Everyone.
Take care.